They thought Iran's underwater fortress was untouchable, a billion-dollar fiber optic network buried beneath the Persian Gulf, hardened against airstrikes, invisible to satellites, completely immune to conventional warfare. 4 Navy SEALs just proved them catastrophically wrong, and the Iranians still have no idea what hit them. This wasn't some Hollywood smash-and-grab operation. This was surgical warfare executed 60 feet below the surface in the most strategically contested waters on Earth. The Strait of Hormuz carries 21 million barrels of oil every single day. That's 21% of global petroleum consumption flowing through a choke point Iran believed they owned. One successful attack on that cable network, and Tehran could coordinate swarm tactics using dozens of fast attack boats capable of overwhelming a destroyer. The stakes weren't just tactical, they were existential. The target wasn't just buried under the Gulf floor, it was protected by layers of backup sensors, underwater drones, and acoustic tripwires designed to detect any intrusion. Iran had publicly called it an impenetrable defensive layer, and they weren't bluffing. Taking it out required more than explosives. It required convincing the enemy that nothing had happened at all. That's where the mission plan turned into something resembling science fiction. Picture an invisible net stretching from the ocean floor to 20,000 feet above. On the surface, a beat-up fishing trawler drifting at 8 knots. Its radar signature deliberately aged, its hull rusted to look like every other wooden boat working these waters. Beneath that hull sat a hardened communications relay and the sealed hatch where 4 SEALs entered the water. Behind them, an Arleigh Burke destroyer held position just outside Iranian territorial waters, running in complete electromagnetic silence with a full loadout of countermeasures on standby. But the real masterpiece was happening below. A Virginia-class submarine had been sitting motionless in a deep trench for 48 hours, mapping thermal layers and feeding the SEAL team real-time navigation data through acoustic pulses, so focused they were nearly impossible to detect. Above the surface, a P-8 Poseidon aircraft maintained steady surveillance on Bandar Abbas Naval Base, its radar locked on every Iranian fast attack craft in port, ready to push an alert the second any of them started their engines. At 2:40 a.m., 4 operatives were already 60 feet down, navigating through water so thick with silt and mud that visibility barely broke 4 yards. They moved in tight diamond formation, eyes locked on sonar tablets, displaying a glowing map of the fiber optic network the Virginia had built through 2 days of passive acoustic imaging. They had 90 minutes of rebreather endurance. 90 minutes to locate the cable, plant the payload, cover their tracks, and extract before their air ran out or their presence got flagged. The payload wasn't designed to destroy the cable. A clean cut would be detected within hours and repaired within days. Instead, they carried something far more insidious, a micro fault injector no bigger than a deck of cards, engineered to be embedded directly into the fiber optic core. Once installed, it would introduce intermittent data corruption throughout the entire network. Not catastrophic failure, just random micro glitches, orders delayed by half a second, coordinates off by a few meters, video feeds freezing for fractions of a moment. The genius wasn't breaking Iran's system, it was making their system unreliable. That kind of erosion is infinitely more dangerous than clean sabotage, because Iranian engineers would spend weeks chasing phantom hardware failures instead of suspecting an outside attack. The SEALs deployed hydraulic cutters with angled blades designed to leave jagged fractures that looked exactly like natural wear from shifting tectonic plates or dragging anchors. When Iranian divers eventually came down to inspect, they'd log it as mechanical failure, not an act of war. Then everything went sideways. The target cable was buried deeper than expected. To guide the team to the exact core, the Virginia fired a single high-intensity acoustic pinger. That pulse was quiet by submarine standards, but it wasn't silent, and it woke something up. An Iranian underwater drone called the Agdar broke off its patrol route and turned hard toward the team's position. The Agdar carries a magnetic anomaly detector, and it had picked up both the metallic wake from the SEALs' dive sleds and the acoustic signature of the Virginia's pinger. The drone's safety protocol was simple. If it detected an intruder, it would surface and transmit an encrypted alarm to Bandar Abbas Command. The SEAL team now had 12 to 15 minutes before the mission transformed from a staged accident into an overt act of war. 60 feet down, oxygen dwindling, a robotic hunter closing in, they were cornered. But that's when the real chess match began. An operator brought a handheld electromagnetic jammer to bear and released a concentrated burst of RF energy tuned precisely to the Agdar's sensor frequencies. The pulse blinded its magnetic anomaly detectors and scrambled its internal gyroscopes. The drone suffered digital brain damage, spinning aimlessly in the water, unable to locate the intruder or transmit a coherent signal. But the moment that jammer activated, it fired an encrypted SOS to the surface. The Arleigh Burke escalated immediately, activating its Sea-Whip Block 3 system. Powerful phased array antennas radiated a localized digital fog that enveloped the entire operational zone, engineered to intercept and corrupt any backup signal the Agdar tried to push out. By creating an electronic black hole, the destroyer guaranteed that even a malfunction report would be absorbed before reaching any Iranian shore station. But the Iranians had embedded a low-tech backup system near the fiber optic node, passive acoustic triggers that respond to surges in electromagnetic energy, like the kind generated by Sea-Whip's jamming field. When the EM pressure spiked, a secondary circuit buried in the mud came alive, pulsing a rhythmic high-intensity ping through the water. A mechanical distress beacon designed to punch through any electronic countermeasure. 2 Iranian patrol boats picked it up instantly and swung around, accelerating at 40 knots toward the source. At 3:07 a.m., with Iranian patrol boats bearing down, the operation entered its endgame, a coordinated multi-domain deception designed to send the enemy chasing shadows. From the deep trench, the Virginia began deploying acoustic decoys that replicated the exact engine and propeller signatures of a Virginia-class submarine. The decoy sprinted off at 20 knots in the opposite direction, planting a massive ghost contact on Iran's sonar screens. Simultaneously, the P-8 Poseidon orbiting overhead dropped a precision pattern of sonobuoys. On impact, the buoys began broadcasting synthetic sounds of metal grinding and high-speed underwater drilling 400 yards from the SEAL team's actual position. To Iranian sonar operators, it sounded exactly like a US team working frantically at the completely wrong location. While Iranian patrol boats tore after the ghost generated by the Virginia and the P-8, the SEAL operatives locked back onto the primary objective. They embedded the micro-fault injector directly into the fiber optic core, sealed the casing, and conducted a meticulous sweep of the scene. Every piece of equipment accounted for, every trace in the disturbed mud smoothed over. At 3:23 a.m., while Iranian naval units 400 yards away were frantically dropping depth charges into empty water, 4 SEAL operatives had planted a device that would quietly unravel Iranian command confidence over the next 2 weeks. By 3:30 a.m., the team had dissolved into the dark, swimming along the seabed to the backup extraction point. 4 shapes surfaced beside the support vessel. Every piece of kit was quietly retrieved. The ship resumed its role as a drifting civilian trawler. By first light, the SEALs were back aboard the Arleigh Burke, and the Persian Gulf looked exactly the same as it always had, but the balance of power had quietly shifted. Iranian engineers found only a frayed, chewed-up cable, the perfect signature of natural accident. They had no idea the micro-fault injector was already inside, beginning its slow work. Over the next 14 days, Iran's command network began its deterioration. Fast attack boat orders delayed, missile coordinates off by critical margins, video feeds freezing. The SEALs had stripped the enemy of its nervous system without firing a shot, turning a billion-dollar fleet into a collection of blind giants. This demonstrates something far more significant than successful sabotage. It's proof of multi-domain dominance executed with surgical precision, using relatively low-cost tools to deliver strategic returns that shift the entire operational calculus in the Gulf. The combination of Virginia-class stealth, SEAL capability, electromagnetic warfare, and airborne deception created a system where even if one element failed, 2 backups were already running. Right now, Iranian command staff are trying to figure out why their systems keep glitching, and they'll keep chasing hardware failures while that injector quietly erodes their confidence, one micro fault at a time. The real question isn't whether this operation succeeded. It's what happens when Tehran finally realizes their impenetrable fortress was never impenetrable at all.